Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of El Jefe's Chop Shop. This week we're back on the 25. We're going to be trying to put a new diff in it. So far with all my YouTube stuff, I've been filming off my phone. So I've just upgraded to a camera and also a microphone, which I've made a little jig for. So now I'm going to try and use this primarily and then use my phone for hyperlapses. Hopefully take this video content a little bit higher and make this project a whole lot more enjoyable. Hopefully it's a good investment. We shall see. So bear with me if this audio is no good. Hopefully this setup tries to make me point the camera at myself more so than at the thing that I'm working on, so that the audio is better, because the microphone's pointing at me, obviously. So, going to rip the diff out of this thing. It's currently the stock one, and it's still got the back seat in it. I need to pull the back seat out because it's annoying me, and then I'm going to pull the diff and the wheels out, and then try and fit the new diff, which is on the ground just over here, and is a Hilux diff. So, let's get started and get it all on the bench. Alright, so I got the old diff out. Just going to put this one and the new one side by side on the bench and measure the spring pads, see if they're the right width and the right size, and also see if they're on the same angle. So I'll explain that a bit more in a minute. Alright, so here is the new Hilux diff. It's currently got no axles or center in it. And here is the stock K25 diff. So the first thing I notice is the spring pads. These ones have shock mounts and these ones do not. No big issue, but something to think about. So next I'm going to measure the distance between the spring pads and the thickness and size of the spring pads and make sure they're the same diff to diff. And if they're not, I'm going to have to cut the ones off of this and make them be correct. So we'll start there. Alright, so I've done a few quick measurements and marked out here on the bench where the Hilux mounting holes are. And if you roll the 25 diff a bit closer, you can tell this one's pretty well lined up. You come over here, and this one's about 10 to 15 mil longer. So that leads me to believe that the perches on the Hilux diff are slightly in the wrong spot. Seems like they're set up for K10, so I'm going to have to strip this diff down so I can get some better measurements off of it, and cut the mounts off of that, and sort of start again. So here we have the K20 diff and the Hilux diff both stripped down to the same point. So as you can see, the mounts are very close, but they aren't the same. The center's obviously heaps bigger, but the mounts aren't in the same spot, and that's what's annoying me. So I'm going to have to fix that and make sure that I get the pinion angle right as well. So I've just been looking over these diffs and looking at my scrap metal pile to see if I can find anything that's this wide. I've grabbed the leaf spring center thingy off of the leaf spring, and if I had another pair of these, which I did until about a week ago, I could have just cut them up and welded them straight on. But I'm going to have to make some instead out of 50mm RHS, which this is actually 60mm, but 50mm will do the job, because as you can see here, the leaf spring was wearing just there anyway. And there's two wear lines, and that's only 50mm anyway. So I'm going to have to drill a hole into these, this is the same size as this, and then scallop them out to go onto the diff tube. And then cut these ones off as well, obviously. So I immediately didn't like that idea and searched the other shed for one of these, or two of these, and I found a box with a few of them in there. So I'll dig those out and see what we've got size-wise. Alright, so I found two that are the same as each other, and they're also the same as the original. Very close too. So if I line up the center hole, you can see they are the same width and the same length and the same thickness, so these will work much better. So now I need to scallop these out so that they fit on the diff nicely. So we'll get started on that. Alright, so I've got the new diff, let's call them saddles. Got the new diff saddles cut up and notched, so they're a little bit rough. I'll probably have to work on with them a little bit more. So now I need to clear off the diff mounts and weld these new ones on. So you can see they're on a little bit of an angle, so that means one of these holes is a little bit further forwards or backwards than the other one. So I'm going to have to just manipulate that a little bit until it's straight. So I'll get these off and then get the diff in the car with these, and then work out what needs to be clearanced. Right, so this is taking about an hour and a half. We've got the mounts all smoothed off, and we've got the new ones in here somewhere covered in swarf. The new ones ready to go back on. So now what I'm going to do is put the leaf springs properly bolted back in the car, put the diff in place and the correct way up, and then make these saddles sit on the leaf spring as they should. Get everything nice and square and nice and even, and tuck it in. And also set the pinion angle while it's in the car. Okay, so I've got the Hilux diff centered in the car. So the next thing I need to do is set the pinion angle. So the pinion angle is, so this is a pinion that your tail shaft bolts to. So it's the angle of that in the car. So if the car's sitting level and your pinion angle's like this or like this, that's what we're measuring. So the stock one, so there's a stock K20 diff. Put the measuring device on the flat there and zero it out, and then come over to here, so that's where the leaf springs mount obviously, and then come over here, put it on the diff and measure the angle. So I need to clean this surface because that's a different measurement to what I got 2 minutes ago. So I'm going to set that up and do it now and measure everything correctly, and then we'll go to the Hilux and measure that and make it the same as whatever this measures out to. Okay, so far that measures to 3 degrees. So the next important thing is it's 3 degrees forwards or 3 degrees backwards. So you can see in the top of the square there's a gap and it's pressed up against the bottom. So what we want is 3 degrees nose up. So we'll go over to the car and we'll set the Hilux diff centered and 3 degrees nose up, and then we'll clamp it in place and give it a tack weld and then bring it on the bench and check everything over. Alright, so this is a bit of a mission. So you can see that that is at 0. If the camera will focus. So you can see that's at 0. And if we take it off and put it on this bar that I've put in on the diff front. So you should be able to see that. That's sitting on there nicely. So this bar is sitting on the front of the diff where the center would go. And if you come down, that's just over 87, which would be just under 3 degrees, which is where we want it, according to the stock one anyway. So I'm pretty confident I got this in the right spot, and I've measured it side to side, and this measurement from here, from the leaf spring, sorry the lighting's horrible, so from the leaf spring to where the axle mounts is the same distance side to side. So if I tuck this in, I'm pretty confident we're in the right spot. Alright, so there's a bit of a discrepancy side to side. So in the car, this mounting pad and that mounting pad were on different angles. So I've chucked them both on the bench and checked side to side. There's not much in it at all. There's a tiny little bit, but that should be fine. So I've measured the spring pad width and they are now in the correct spot again, because I didn't tuck them in the car. And then we've got that at 2.95 degrees, which is close enough to 3, I reckon. So now I just need to tack this and make sure everything's square, put it back in the car, make sure everything still fits, and then pull it out again and weld it. So no one will believe me if I don't show you. So zeros, $86.9. It was 87 a minute ago. And very, very close to 0. Oh, there you go, 0. Put back on here. 86.95. 0. Perfect. Okay, so I've just started welding the pads on, the saddles, whatever you want to call them. Done one weld on either side, one half on either side I should say. Apparently Diff housings are really easy to warp, so I'm trying not to do that. So as you can see, I've welded half on either side. I'm just going to let it cool down for a bit and then I'll do the rest. Trying not to warp this thing before I even get it in the car. So I got a bit excited and put some paint on these brackets. I haven't done the shock mounts yet, and I'm going to leave those until I get the new shocks, because I don't know if I'm going to go with K21s. So we'll just get all this stuff, let it cool down, chuck this in as it is, and then once we work out what shocks we're going to run in the back, take it back out and make some new mounts for it. Because these bits of metal were too short anyway, so I'm probably going to have to add a little piece on the back here. So it's not the end of the world, and I can do it later. Which I will. Alright, so far we've got the diff all welded up. Haven't done the shock mounts. I'll do those later once I know what shocks I'm going to run. Gave it a quick coat of paint just to cover it up and stop it from rusting. And then I threw it in the car and put the center in it and an axle and a brake and a wheel in the sizes that I want to use. It's a bit spicy. I'll show you what we're in for. So this is the wheel combo I want to run, obviously with a tyre. Not these wheels either, I think I've explained that in a previous episode. I'm going to run some works, but these are my stand-in wheels. They're a 9-0, so 15 by 9-0, and they are spacey. And obviously this is going to be up here somewhere, but for now, that gives you an idea of how big they are. From the back it looks a bit better, or worse, depends which way you think about it. So we've got the new diff in there, and the center section, and the axle. We've got plenty of room to the leaf spring, so I could actually go wider, but there's no point at this stage. Pretty good afternoon's work, really. And again, you see how wide the wheel is. Alright, I just whipped up another quick little thing for this frame. So a piece of angle line that bolts to the guard bolts, which are M8s, and then 2 M6s to hold it to the frame. Same on left as on right. And now, it's not going anywhere. That was the rim that's inside that was for counterbalance, so I can take that out now. Sweet, I'm pretty confident that's not going to fall off now when I put more weight in the bum end. When I go to putting the engine back in, I'll probably have to do the similar on the back. Another thing I'll be working on soon is this front rad support. So this is a reproduction one off eBay. It was about 200 bucks. It's wrinkly and it has 20 stamped into it, which I don't really like. And it doesn't come with captive nuts and stuff, so there's a few things that I don't like about it, but I might be able to use it for rust cuts or replace the whole thing because I have this to deal with. So I could probably get away with just replacing the bottom, but we'll see how I go. The top doesn't look great either, to be honest. That's it for this week on the K25. Got the diff sorted. Next is the radiator support and a fuel cell. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.